For number 1, to undo the square, you need to take the square root on both sides. The square root of 7 is going to be a decimal, so we leave that as a square root of 7, but positive and negative, so that would be letter B. Number 2, just like number 1, we take the square root of both sides. Square root of 9 is 3. So plus or minus, positive or negative, 3. But because of this negative inside the square root, we need to have an I. So positive or negative 3i, which would be letter B. For number 3, taking the square root on both sides, the square root of 5 is going to be a decimal, so we leave that as plus or minus square root of 5. But because of the negative inside, we need to add an I. So make sure that the I goes on the outside. So that would be letter C as the answer. For number 4, take the square root of both sides. The square root of 4 is just 2. And so positive or negative 2. And here we don't need an I because under the square root it was a positive 4. So letter A is the answer. For number 5, we need to factor this. So there's no number in front of the x squared, so we don't need to worry about that. Let's break up the 6. So what times what is 6? Let's try 1 times 6. 1 times 6 is 6. We want to get the negative 5, so the bigger number needs to be negative. So negative 6 minus 1 is negative 7, but negative 6 plus 1 is negative 5, so let's make that as a positive. But here's the problem. When we double check, a positive multiplied with a negative is a negative, so this does not work. So let's try a different combination. 2 and 3. So the bigger number needs to be negative, and to make negative 5, we need to do negative 3 minus 2. Double checking this time, a negative multiplied with a negative is a positive, so now this works. So our factors are going to be x minus 2 and x minus 3. So by looking at this problem, you know why it is very important to double check so you don't get the wrong answer. For number 6, we want to solve by factoring, and so let's break up the 3. 1 times 3 is 3. For 8, we can try 2 times 4. Now we cross multiply. 1 multiplied with 4 is 4. 3 multiplied with 2 is 6. We're trying to get the negative 23, so the bigger number needs to be negative, but no matter what we do with the 4, we can't get a negative 23. So let's try again. Let's by switching this up. 1, 3, and 4, and 2. So 1 multiplied with 2 is 2, and 3 multiplied with 4 is 12. The bigger number gets the negative. And again, no matter what we do, there's nothing that can work. So let's try something different. So let's do 1 times 3, and instead of 2 times 4 or 4 times 2, let's try 8 times 1. That is also 8. So let's cross multiply. 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 8 is 24. The bigger number needs to be negative. So negative 24 minus 1 is negative 25, but negative 24 plus 1 is negative 23. So then we just need to double check the sign. A negative multiplied with a positive is a negative, which is what we have here, so that's okay. And now we will write our factors. So it will be 1r minus 8, but we don't really need the r, so we don't need the 1, so r minus 8. The second factor is going to be 3r plus 1. So now solving this, our answer is going to be r equals to positive 8 or r equals to negative 1 over 3. Number 7, we need to solve by completing the square. So we need the k squared. We need a 6k term. After this, we need a blank. So this negative 60 moves over here, becomes a positive 60. Negative 8 plus 60 is going to give you 50. Oh, don't do that yet. And now we want to complete the square. So I'm going to take this 6 divided by 2. 6 divided by 2 is going to be 3. 3 squared is going to be 9. So what goes into the blank is going to be plus 9. So over here we bring down the negative 8 plus 60. But whatever we add to one side, we need to add the same to the other side, so plus 9. So here, what we get is going to be k plus 3 and y plus 3 from step 1. And then here, we get negative 8 plus 60 plus 9 is going to give you 61. Now, to undo the square, let's take the square root. That leaves you with k plus 3 equal to positive or negative the square root of 61. Now one last step to move the 3 to the other side, so we have k equal to negative 3 positive or negative square root of 61 as the final answer. For number 8, we have x squared minus 9x, and then we need to have a blank here, so this 27 moves to the other side, becomes negative 27 plus 8. Now for the 2 steps, we're going to take this negative 9 divided by 2, so negative 9 over 2, that's going to be a fraction. Then square that, so negative 9 squared is going to be positive 81, 2 squared is going to be positive 4. So now we are going to add 81 over 4 on both sides, plus 81 over 4. So here what we are left with is going to be x minus 9 over 2 squared. And over here for the whole number part, we have negative 27 plus 8, which is going to be a negative 19. And we want to add it to this fraction. So what you want to do is you want to take this negative 19, multiply by the bottom. So negative 19 times 4, which is negative 78. Then add the top plus 81. It's going to be 5. So what we have here is going to be 5 over 4. Now taking the square root on both sides, we have x minus 9 over 2. Square root of 5 is just going to leave that as positive or negative the square root of 5 because that's a decimal. The bottom square root of 4 is 2. And now you see how we have the same denominator on both sides, so we can bring this negative 9 over 2 over on the other side, and that will become a positive 9 plus or minus square root of 5 all over 2. That's the answer. For number 9, looking at the equation, this is in vertex form, so we can just write the vertex down from looking at this. Inside change, so this positive 4, change that to a negative 4. Outside stay the same, so negative 4, negative 2. So here is going to be the vertex. Now remember in class, the 2 numbers I want you to remember is 1 squared, so 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4. So you start with this. But because of this 2 over here, we need to multiply by the 2. So 1 times 2 is going to be 2, and 4 times 2 is going to be 8. So that means from here, when we go over 1 space, we will need to go down 2 spaces. So 1 space to the left, go over 2 spaces. And then when we go over 2 spaces, we want to go down 8 spaces. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then 2 spaces to the left and go down 8 spaces like this. And then your graph will look like this. So connect that and make that into a U. For number 10, this equation is not in vertex form. So let's change it first from standard form to vertex form, which is a very important skill on this test. So first we need to bring this negative 2 over, so that becomes y positive 2. And here we have a 2 parentheses x squared. Then 4 divided by 2 is going to be 2, so 2x, and then we leave a blank. So you see, if you distribute this back, 2 times x squared is 2x squared, 2 times 2x is going to be positive 4x. So let's go ahead and fill in the blank with the 2 steps. Step 1, take this 2 divided by 2, which is going to be 1. Then square that. 1 times 1 is still going to be 1. So we go plus 1 over here, but be careful on the other side. It's going to be 2 times 1, which is 2, plus 2 over here. So what we're going to have is y plus 4 equal to 2 parentheses x plus 1 squared. And one last thing to do is we need to bring this 4 over here to the other side, so that becomes a negative 4. So now looking at this, the vertex will be negative 1, right? Inside change the sign, negative 1, and negative 4. So negative 1, negative 4, that's going to be right here, negative 1, negative 4, over here. Again, come up with those two numbers. So 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, and we need to multiply these by 2. So 1 times 2 is 2, 4 times 2 is 8. And because that's a positive 2, we need to go up. So when we go over 1 to the right, we go up 2 spaces. 1 to the left, go up 2 spaces. When we go 2 to the right, we need to go up 8 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then 2 to the left, go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces. So it needs to look like this. And then join the points together with a U.